Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for September. This means jumpers, it means jackets, it means slightly darker in the evenings, it means excuses for putting the heating on, it means that we're not boiling up in some kind of horrific inferno because autumn is enveloping us in its blanket of crinkly leaved love, and don't we just like it? Well, don't we just like it? But sometimes we want to get away from it all. Sometimes we want to be somewhere else. You could say sometimes we even want to get an escape. But we can't always afford to go away to escape. Sometimes we just want to escape into ourselves. We want to be sitting down. We want to maybe have a book in front of us that lets us escape into somewhere else. So we're better not just escape, but maybe some Escapages. So, joining me to talk about Escapages, I've got Matt Rowe, and I've got his favourite friend in the universe until the tax inspectors catch up with him.
Correct.
It's Stephen Lockyer.
Hello.
How are you, gentlemen? We could sit and we could say hello for the next 10 minutes.
We're doing very well.
I think we're doing so.
Yeah, we're good.
That's good. I'm glad to hear. I want to pick the tiny corners of your minds to find out a little bit more, because I'm intrigued. When I was a small boy, I was a boy who was often given kind of a grand book of puzzles by my gran, which contained kind of logic puzzles. This was before the advent of Sudoku. And you're taking this to the next level.
Oh, it's not even, it's a different building.
It's not even the same street.
There's a drab building, that's where your puzzle books are. And then there's this shiny, high-tech, there's glass, and it's a different building. It's a different building altogether.
Lasers. You didn't mention lasers.
We've got lasers as well, yeah.
You got one of those opening automatic door things with a button that you press to get in.
We've got two of those.
No, it's not that easy.
No, we haven't got those. No, sorry.
No, there's a code.
Yeah, sorry.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
You said that from the beginning. You just messed it up totally. It was a code. It's definitely a code. Matt knew where it was going. Matt knew where it was going with it. Steve, just, code thing, it was there. It was like an open goal.
You just gave, it was on a plate.
Unfortunately, Steve's fallen down the trapdoor in front of the code on the door.
This is really awkward. Yeah.
It's not awkward at all. It's only going to get awkward from about minute 8:44 in.
Marking that. Okay, good.
And now it's awkward. For the admin side of things, I guess we should be saying to people, for people who haven't listened to us for the first, or are listening to us for the first time, thank you for joining us. The reason that we do this is quite simple, is that there's not enough podcasts about board games. We've been doing this for 3 years. I know it's far too long, and some people say we should just disappear back to where we came from, but we're still going. But there still isn't enough podcasts about board games out there. And the second reason that we're doing it is I have been having some rather delightful conversations with these two gentlemen on the Twitters, and the conversation went round to, would you like to come on the show and chat about your fantastic interactive puzzle books? And the answer to that question was yes, so we decided to get them on, so there you go. So let's set the way back clock for two small boys running about in the woods getting occasionally in trouble, you know, throwing conkers at each other and all that kind of thing. How was it you first kind of met? I guess is the first question. I'm going to put that to Matt. How did you first?
Oh, you want the truth? Interesting. Okay. Let's hear his version.
We were at the same school. Steve is obviously a lot older than me, but he hasn't chimed in. I'm slightly older than Steve.
Right.
He was the cocky one at school, was trying to blag dinner money off me.
All right.
That is true.
So
it's still
we
true.
were also in a youth group together, and I think we clicked straight away. Similar sense of humour.
Mm-hmm. We
like to clown around, and it's gone from there, really. There's an odd family connection, which is a long, interesting for some story.
Is it kind of like who do you think you are kind of connection? If you go back, it both turns out that you were uncles that owned the same horse or something like that. Is it that kind of connection?
Nearly as tenuous as that.
Is it?
Very nearly.
I think it's I wouldn't describe it as tenuous. I think it's a
generations.
It's a genuine connection. We are. Matt is married to my third cousin.
Wow.
But that's got nothing to do with how we know each other, which is the weird thing about it.
So in other words, this was almost like a fate, destiny type
yes,
thing.
You could say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Matt used to come around to my house after youth club on Sundays, and we used to have drop scones. And he brought round his then girlfriend, and we were chatting, and she recognised a picture on my wall. And she said, "Oh, I think that was done by a relative of mine." I said, "No, I don't think it was, because it was done by my grandma." And she said, "No, I definitely think it was." And we looked up in the address book, and she was in there, and it turns out we were third cousins. So, yeah, spooky.
But then Matt went on to marry this fine woman.
I know.
Even knowing
it was bringing him closer to me. Possibly.
That's right. That has been said.
Force.
You were just saying, I'm friends with this person, Matt. This is what you said. And you said, I was wondering if there was any possible way our friendship is so strong that maybe we could become related in some way, shape or form. Is that kind of what drove it? Or was it because probably you like the girl?
Let's not get bogged down in the details. I think the evidence speaks for itself, doesn't it?
So I mean, it sounds like this is like a friendship that's been going for kind of some time. Was there any kind of breaks? Did you move away from each other for any period of time, or have you just stayed kind of steady friends kind of since then?
Steve constantly moves about in his caravan, so it just takes a lot of work to keep up with him. Again,
lies.
Is it a motorhome? Is it a motorhome, Caroline? Is it a motorhome caravan?
We grew up together, sort of 2 miles from each other, and then Matt moved away for witness protection reasons, and we now live about 50 miles away from each other, approximately. Although sometimes it feels like 100. But we are in regular contact.
Was that a dig, actually, that you don't see him enough?
No,
it sometimes feels like 100. That's a dig, Matt.
No,
are you going to accept that?
No, that's heartfelt and yearning. Like I think it'd be the best thing and the worst thing if I was next door neighbours to Matt, because we'd just never get anything done. we get very easily distracted. But hold on a minute. Sorry, we get very easily distracted by fun and ephemera and different things. But we have almost aligned interests, despite having completely different sort of professional backgrounds and whatever.
Have you barbecued together? Has there been a barbecue thing going on? Have you done the barbecue summers round at each other's houses? And do you stand next to each other at the barbecue sharing tips while you're basically charcoaling a chicken? Have you done that yet?
I don't think we've done a lot of that, but one thing we do share is going into London with a packet full of googly eyes and sticking those in random places.
This is true. We are a big fan of googly eyes. Yeah, big fan.
Have you ever seen googly-eyed Jaws?
No.
You've never seen Googly Eye Jaws?
No, this is something that I've missed.
Right,
it's weird because I get posts.
No. You need to do this right now. You need to open up a browser, and you will thank me for this. You need to go and just search for Googly Eye Jaws. You just need to do this.
I'm not doing it now.
You have to do it now.
It doesn't need any more distraction.
You just have to do it now because it's just amazing.
I'm adding it to my list.
Have you seen Googly Eye Jaws yet, Matt?
I haven't, no. But that's going on the list.
You have to see it, you have to watch it, and you have to report back once you see Googly Eye Jaws, because I am just about to enrich your life by about the smallest fraction that there is, basically, but it'll be entirely worth it. It'll give you something to kind of giggle at. In terms of tabletop stuff and board game stuff and other things like that, was that something that you guys kind of got yourselves involved in? Because I'm aware that what you're offering is slightly in the Venn diagram sense of the word. It's kind of there in its own little thing next to escape rooms and then next to interesting books. So do you get involved in the kind of the tabletop hobby at all, Stephen?
Yeah, well, I went to the UK Games Expo. I've been quite a keen board gamer for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I like the most about it, I've got 4 young children,
Mm-hmm.
3 of whom I like. And one of the things that we've benefited from is playing cooperative games, and love a cooperative game, because when we were playing competitive games, they would always battle and argue with each other.
Yeah.
And now we're playing cooperative games, they battle and argue with each other, but for a common goal. So, it's a good spin. Do you know the game Forbidden Island?
Yes, I do. Yes.
I think it's hands down our favourite, and it's so clever. That element that you are sitting at a table playing a good board game, and yet there is a sense of tension. I think that's how that can be generated is fascinating to me. And I think it's really, really cleverly designed. The mechanic of it's really cleverly designed. But
have you taken it to the next level and tried Vanilla Pandemic? Well, have you tried Vanilla Pandemic yet?
I haven't yet, no.
Because it's simplistic enough in terms of you can house rule it to make it an awful lot more simplistic, but you get that added lesson of teaching them about mortality and saying, I'm sorry, you've all failed and everybody's died, kind of thing.
Well, which is always that daily from me, but it's nice to put it in a board game, I suppose, Sugarcoat it a little bit. That
got dark. Have you played Super Rhino Hero Battle yet?
Those are just 4 words that you put together. I can't believe this. Is that?
There's a game called...
Oh, have you played Pen Biro Cable?
No, it's a game. Write that down as well.
Oh, man, it's like a weird shopping list.
It is Super Rhino Hero Battle. It's basically I got this game about a week and a half ago, and basically what you're doing is you're using kind of folded card and flat bits of card to build towers that everybody's building on, and then you have little wooden superheroes that you move up the buildings, and the idea is to make sure that the tower doesn't collapse. And I've been playing it with my 6-year-old, and I've been playing it with my eldest, and it's fantastic. And depending on the age of your kids, they will all love it too. I promise.
That sounds a lot more up my street. I'm all about
there you go.
He's all about the rhinos. He loves the rhinos. Big fan.
Physical games, I think.
You said they're an alpha unicorn, the rhino, didn't you, Matt? You should see his rhino collection.
I'm starting to think that if I'm wanting truth, I stay away from Stephen. And if I'm wanting facts, I go directly to Matt, basically. What about you, Matt? I mean, are you a bit of a gamer? Do you like to play around with the pressed and printed trees?
So my family makeup was a bit different. The ages are a bit more diverse. So finding something that we can all get round the table and do is a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
but we like to set each other little puzzles and things. So with my 8-year-old, it's all about the logic and the maths, and then I have older teenagers, and if you can get them out of bed, they're into photography and making films and stuff. So,
all right,
sitting down around the table is it's not the sort of thing they want to do with Dad. But another part of my life, spare time, has been as a volunteer youth leader. So that is a perfect opportunity for setting up big games, Mission Impossible style things, climbing through a spider's web and taping stuff out on the floor. That's the sort of stuff that gets me excited.
Do you ever kind of take inventive? Do you take games to them then? Do you ever take kind of board games round to the groups and let them kind of see what they're like? Because I'm still super aware that there's so many brilliant kind of board games out there that I know that kids from whatever age would get so much out of it by not seeing that it's just a different variation of Monopoly, that it kind of sometimes opens their world into something completely different, you know?
Sorry.
What?
Slight Monopoly alarm.
Oh, come on.
You did well. I think that the difficulty with board games, and this is a perspective from someone who got into it slowly a few years ago and has now launched as a co-founding publisher in that sort of world, is it reminds me an awful lot of the indie music world. When I was a teenager, is that there was mainstream pop that was hugely popular, sold bucket loads, and everyone liked that. Admittedly was vanilla, but probably why it was popular is because it was vanilla, so it suited all sorts. Yeah. And then you've got a really fast-growing board game industry made up of large companies, medium companies, small startups, and it's almost like you scratch the surface and you suddenly think, oh my goodness, there are thousands now of games, and it's quite tricky to try and navigate your way without going, like I've had a few bad Kickstarter experiences which have put me off buying board games from Kickstarter. And it's really tricky to try and navigate your way through that whole realm of new board games. And it does sometimes feel like we want more people to play, but at the same time we quite like the fact that we're indie. Does that make sense?
Oh no, completely. I see that all the time. I mean, there's always arguments about what you call gatekeeping in the hobby, which is, you know, as anything becomes kind of more accessible, people think back and try and show kind of superiority. And I remember about the indie bands as well. I remember people kind of going, oh, OK Computer, yeah, that's a good album, but have you listened to Pablo Honey? I bet you haven't, kind of thing. And I remember kind of that at the time, and I do see it from time to time with people who have been into board games for a while, which are still kind of like, well, it's all very well with all these games coming out, but I remember when, you know, you had to go out and cut down a tree and fashion your own meeples out of wood, and it's just, you know, it's just, you see it all the time with kind of popularity. But yeah, I kind of know where you're kind of coming from. But the both of you, do you get time to kind of like spend time, and do you play board games together, or are you concentrating?
No, we've never played a board game together, ever.
See, I don't believe you because of everything else that you've said. Matt, have you ever played a board game with Stephen?
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
Wow.
I can give you a typical meetup, if you like.
Yeah.
So, one type of meetup that we have is we can both get into London fairly easily. So we meet up after work. We have the best of intentions. We say we'll have a couple of quiet drinks and maybe a meal. And then at 11:45, I realise that my train's late. We haven't eaten. We've had too many pints. And then I fall asleep on a train and have to get picked up by my partner quite late. So that's a typical meetup. But, for example, Matt's built his own pub at the end of his garden. And I was round at his for one New Year's Eve, and he had spiked my beer, let's be honest, and we ended up kitting it out with items that we'd found on eBay. And another time we set up a series of mirrors and lasers in his kitchen. And this is why we're grown adults. So Matt and I definitely have a level of playfulness, but we've also got this. I remember this quote from Jamie Oliver that said that he wanted people not to follow his recipes, but if there was something missing, to feel free that they could substitute things. He wanted to break away from that. This is how you must do things. And I think Matt and I approached lots of things like that with, well, that's great, but how could we improve it? How could we play around with it? How could we pimp or adjust that? And I think that that's almost our life view. Like both of us work in different, completely different worlds, and yet we're both individually known for coming up with original ideas or just good spins on things because we're playful in outlook.
The ideas just spark when we get together, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, in different ways. We've got such different backgrounds. Steve from teaching, I'm from engineering, so all straight away different. And you see that in our books in the way that they're constructed. Steve's perhaps a lot more around the words and playing around with language. Mine are a bit more visual, perhaps a bit more technical. And now we're working on one together, which is really exciting. I think it's the first time we've actually, whilst we're doing this project together of Escapages, we've never worked directly on the same thing together. And this is really quite interesting.
That is true.
And that's the thing that's out on social media at the moment. That's our flatpak catalogue.
But, I mean, why a book? I mean, did you guys not think of actually putting together a kind of an actual escape room place as kind of like a one-off session to see how it goes? I mean, who came up with the idea of the kind of the Escapages book? Or was it something that you came up with together? Or do you not remember?
Together. So this was last New Year's Eve. We both worked through a certain black book of a similar genre, which I won't advertise the title of here.
50 Shades of Grey. Sorry, that one. Wrong New Year's Eve. Sorry. Yeah.
And we both
the fancy dress that year was amazing.
I just can't even. Will you stop, Matt? You were saying.
So we both worked through that.
I've still got the clamps.
I'm sure you've had to replace the rubber on them as well.
You can see what our evenings are like already.
I don't want to imagine it. I'm probably too old. So you're sitting down. You're having a chat. You're repeatedly saying, "Stephen, can we just get on with this, please?" And he's like, "Going, look! I can suck a glass onto my face. It makes my entire bottom of my face really, really big." And it's like, "Now, if you do that again, we're going to have to get the fire department out." And then
look at all the places I've stuck googly eyes. Yeah,
on the fire engine, that'd be amazing. Especially if we've got two really big ones. Oh, look, it's Thomas the fire engine. So you're sitting down. Are you both kind of like saying, "Well, you like puzzles, I like puzzles. Let's do something different. Puzzles are dull and boring. Let's make them exciting."
It was let's build on what's good here, and I think we can give it a different spin. We like the narrative. We wanted to take it further. That was the essence of that. Steve had already written quite a few books, self-published, and
and published. So some self-published and some through.
That's right.
Bloomsbury.
Yes, done some real ones.
Real books. Yeah. Well, they're all real books.
Okay. They're not
colour
like
pictures.
Facebook kind of like pretend books. What kind of stuff do you write, Stephen?
So I write mainly educational books. I've been teaching for about 20 years, and I'm restless professionally in terms of, can I do better? Can I improve? How could I change this? What's the different spin? And as a result of it, I get asked an awful lot for ideas and suggestions and my methodologies. So, two of my books are ideas books. They're literally called 100 Ideas For, I can't remember what they're called, something like that. 100 Ideas For. But yeah, I've got quite a few books under my belt, but these are the ones that are completely different to education, which is exciting again.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you teach? As a teacher, what you teach? What subject are you at high school? Are you primary school?
No, primary. So I teach year 6, which is 10, 11-year-olds.
10, 11 years, yeah. Not too long before they go up to high school, really, yeah.
No. And some of them are very keen to go to high school. Yeah.
And are you, I mean, with you being a kind of like a teacher in this digital age, is it more difficult to get them actually involved in kind of books anyway? I mean, is that why you've decided to go for a book with a little level of interactivity? Is that based on you're aware of how people's attention spans and stuff like that?
Personally, I'm a massive advocate of books and of reading. I'm just obsessed with them. So I think that you can sell anything given the right spin to children. And I do something called Drop Everything and Read every afternoon. So all the children read, and I read as well, because it's amazing how many parents come to your parents' evening and say, we just can't get our child to read at home. And the first thing I say to them is, when was the last time they saw you read? And they say, oh, I'm too busy. Like, well, this could be why your child's not reading, because they never see it modelled from you. So every afternoon, straight after lunch, we all read for 15 minutes, and it's absolutely magical. There's that moment where they're getting fidgety, and then they get comfortable, and then they get into their book, and then it just becomes magical and silent. We don't analyse the books. What we might do is talk afterwards. I might mention what I'm reading, and I make children book addicts.
Yeah, that's the thing I find about, sometimes it's making sure that you're tying in the enjoyment of reading, instilling the enjoyment of reading into a child, and not being, oh yeah, well, you've got to know the ins and outs of this book because we're going to be asking questions and we're going to be analysing stuff. I think it's important just to say, well, there you go, there's Conrad's War, for instance. I remember reading that years and years ago at primary school, and it stuck with me because certain parts of the book the teacher touched on, and certain other parts of the book she just said, well, we're just going to read this because it's a damn good story, I think, at the time. So that was kind of pretty good. So, I mean, is this kind of like an extension of what you're doing then? I mean, have you thought about kind of like doing a children's version of this book? I mean, when you were coming up with the ideas for the stories, were you looking at a particular kind of age range, mindset when you were discussing this, or did you just say, well, let's put something together and see kind of what sticks?
We both... Should I take this, Matt?
If you like, yeah, I've got some things to add.
Okay. We both liked Journal 29, which was a similar puzzle book, but we felt really let down by the narrative. And it's something that Matt and I have discussed on and off for years about the value of a narrative and how a narrative can drive a story forward. And we felt that although the puzzles were clever, they were disparate and isolate, and we wanted to produce a range of books where not only was there a puzzle or puzzles, but they were different and they contributed to a storyline. And that's one of the things we're really, really passionate about, because otherwise we could just... I mean, it'd be really easy and really complacent to just pump out Puzzle Book 7 with 50 different puzzles in, and then Puzzle Book 8, and there's no differentiator. We want people to go, I love the puzzles, but I really wanted to know what was happening to that character at the end, or I wanted to know why that character did that thing. And we want them to be talked about as books rather than, oh, it's a puzzle book and I can chuck it now because I finished it.
So, Matt, did you share as much in the storytelling as the puzzle side of stuff? Did you both come up with the puzzles, or was it your logical side that brought up the puzzles, and then Stephen kind of threw the fur jacket over the top of it with the kind of the story?
So we both launched in with our individual takes. In fact, we started on the same book, but then it quickly diverged into two with our different interests. And so for me, the narrative bit, I don't think Steve works the same way, but for me, the narrative comes first. and that sparks the ideas for the puzzle mechanics. And so when I was writing Miracle 47, that is based on a historical story, and if you know the story, then you start to see some of the themes and the words, puzzle answers coming through. And although I'm as much into story, I'm not quite as much into reading, but enjoy it. Because of my background in engineering, the research part of it and problem solving, all those bits came together in that book. And I found that absolutely fascinating. I never did really enjoyed history at school, but this really brought something to life, teasing out all the different threads and trying to create something that I thought would grip people. And I hope some of that comes through in the book, but we're learning as we go. We're taking feedback and sparking new ideas for adapting that style a bit in future books. Absolutely. I'm going even deeper into narrative, which is beyond my comfort zone, but it's even more enjoyable, actually.
When you're creating the puzzles, do you have to make sure that you're kind of able to communicate the idea of the puzzle, what's behind the puzzle? As well as just the kind of the puzzles themselves. Because one of the things I've seen, I recently wrote a preview a couple of months ago for a kind of a series of puzzle cards that appeared on Kickstarter called Cryptex.
Oh, they were at UK Gamescom, yeah.
Yeah, and what you were doing is you had individual cards that had the formation of a puzzle, and then what they gave clues to like a bigger kind of almost puzzle that was going on. And some of them, they clicked with me straight away, and I was looking at it and it was like, yeah, this is easy. And the other ones, it was almost like you had to get into the mindset of the person that had generated the puzzle in order to understand what they were trying to make cryptic, if you know what I mean.
It's a really fine balancing act, and we've written a blog post about it actually, and it's like writing questions for a quiz. Is that if you know all the answers, then you'd get 10 out of 10, but it's trying to work out what the general public think and what they would know, and whether your knowledge is niche or whether it's general knowledge. I think one thing that we have thought really hard about, which we heard this phrase was that part of the puzzles is trying to work out what the puzzle is, what it's doing, and then you can solve it. And that's
right. It's how the puzzle
mindset
works.
Yeah.
Because once you understand the mechanics, the solving part is a lot more straightforward.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that whole balance of how meta do you make some of it, because those first two books, the puzzles thread along, and as you get the keys, they thread into the next puzzles. So you want to keep the interest going, and without people falling at a hurdle, thinking, I can't solve this one. But then when you do get it, you take a step back and you go, oh, that's clever. And for me, that if there's another level where you've got some Easter eggs in there or some little bits, I think that's what's coming out in Flatpak. That's even more interesting, because they're a diversion from the first books, in that it's a single scene, it's a picture, but encoded in it are in your title, in your intro, in the link that says where you put your answer. Some of those are clues as to how the puzzle mechanics work. Some of those are clues to the actual answer. And then the other good fun bit is, as we're putting them out on social media, there's another opportunity for us to write around some more clues. So that whole thing should come together, and if it snaps with you, it should make you grin, I think, at the end of it. I mean, it's that enjoyment factor.
The whole concept behind Flatpak was that I thought it would be a fun idea if there was a fake catalogue, just like the IKEA catalogue, but which had puzzles on every page, because it's like the IKEA catalogue is ubiquitous, isn't it? Everyone has one in their lounge, apart from, ironically, me, because I can't find mine. And I thought it'd be really nice to have. Like, puzzles are still seen as a little bit beardy middle-aged man, and neither Matt or I can grow beards, so we don't fit that category. But we love this idea that you could have a puzzle book disguised as a catalogue, that a friend could come round and you wouldn't be embarrassed to have it out. You could even leave it out and they might flick through it and go, I've never heard of Flatpak, they've got some really nice furniture here, and be totally unaware that there are puzzles hidden on every page. So
there's different levels of the fascinating bit. You can almost encode it all.
So, I mean, where are you with Flatpak? I mean, is that available to buy then, or is that something that, you know, people can go out and get just now?
We thought you'd never ask. So we've done the first 2 months. Well, we've done August, we're doing September. We're just giving them away free because basically we want to play around with the idea, get feedback, explore it, and then this autumn we're going to be launching it as a Kickstarter, so people will be able to actually buy the catalogue and have it delivered to them, and it will look... I mean, it's one of those things, it's the equivalent of puzzle porn. You could have it delivered and no one would complain. We're not using that as a tagline, Matt, by the way.
I would like to see the reaction. Department. Imagine the reaction to that. What have you been buying?
I mean,
into the brown envelope.
But it's true. You can buy something and it can be like it's for your hobby, so it's a little bit embarrassing. But if a catalogue comes through, you can go, "Oh, I just ordered this catalogue," and you can be, stealthily doing puzzles. I love that idea. So the idea is that we're going to be launching it. We've got most of the tiers set up, so some people will be able to buy the opportunity to put their own picture in the catalogue, so they'll send us a range of pictures of their own furniture, and we'll surreptitiously put some of their pictures in, that sort of thing. But it will be the same size but far glossier and obviously far more puzzling than the IKEA catalogue.
I kind of like that idea, and I kind of like the approach, to be honest. I like the idea of, because people do catalogues or something that end up sitting around in a house and they don't even get to the gathering dust stage. They're kind of just there. And they kind of end up in a pile of paper, and you keep them because you don't know, even if you've got the internet, even though you can jump on wherever. I can jump on the Argos website, but I still got access to kind of like the Argos catalogue.
Do you remember the Argos catalogue when you were a child?
Oh my goodness.
Like for Christmas. And you'd get pieces of paper and put in on the pages, like you'd find the toy section and then you'd fold over the pages on. Like, what do kids do now? I should ask the ones that are there.
Do you know what? That's the saddest thing. I mean, this is a sad tale, so prepare yourself. But I remember going round Toys R Us, and going around Toys R Us with the kids and getting kind of ideas, still able to say kind of like, and what do you think? It's just to get some ideas so you can write it down in your Christmas list. And then obviously we went and bought them somewhere else because the price was ridiculous, and that's probably why Toys R Us went under. We didn't help. We just used it as a kind of a walk around showroom so the kids could get some ideas for it.
I've done worse than that. I've had them hold the toys in Toys R Us and take a photo. I'm a monster. But
that's terrible. That's quite funny though. And were you getting the kids to hold the toys, or were you just getting
any child? I was wandering up to children. Can you hold this? No, I was asking my own children to hold the toys that they liked up. Yeah.
I was thinking. But so you don't get that. Yeah, and I remember the Littlewoods catalogue, and all these different things. And then those were back in the days. I remember. I'll tell you what. I got Space Crusade from the Littlewoods catalogue. And it took months to come. It wasn't like nowadays when people buy stuff at Amazon and get it the next day. You had to wait for your catalogue stuff. It was actually probably made on order. It was fantastic. Those were the days. Bring them on back. That's why I say harumph, harumph. But, so how do you go about play testing a puzzle game? I mean, do you just do it internally? Have you reached out to your friends and stuff like that, kind of to get them to help?
We've started building up a select group, which is actually, in other words, a small group. A select group of people who love puzzles and give loads of feedback. So one of the things we really are keen on is feedback with a capital F, because some people say, oh, please give me feedback, but what they're actually saying is, give me some praise, don't give me any negatives, whereas we are really keen to find out what works and what isn't working. So, for example, I'm going to bring it up, Matt. In my book, Prisoner 7, there is a puzzle which involves hockey sticks, and it's universally hated. Like,
it's now become a deleted scene.
Everyone hates it. Like, no one likes it. But so there are not going to be any hockey sticks in Flatpak or any future publication. But what was really interesting is that we knew that first off because we can see on our website when people have put in a solution, and we can see from the number of hits that it gets, it should be roughly even, shouldn't it? It should be, most puzzles should get the same number of wrong answers and right answers. And the hockey sticks puzzle was just like 3 or 4 times as many wrong answers as the others.
Off the charts.
It was off the charts. It was like, this is really spiking. People aren't getting this. And the other thing that we are really keen on is not just using a forum, which other puzzle companies do. We want to be accessible. So if people want to DM us or message us, and we've had, like, we get questions most days asking for hints on Instagram, on Facebook, Messenger, via Twitter, sometimes DM, sometimes publicly, and that's really good. But it also told us never do a version of a puzzle which involves hockey sticks. So we're learning an awful lot there about the difficulty of puzzles, and something that the hockey sticks one I thought genuinely would be really easy to spot. And people found it really hard. So it's made me reevaluate what I can find easy, some other people might find really hard. In fact, the vice versa books. Do you know about the vice versa books?
Is that the one? So you've got 2 books, and it's basically the same, but you're sharing puzzles between
absolutely
2 people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Half a puzzle each. That came up from a conversation with my partner when we were talking about these puzzles. She goes, I can't do them because I couldn't do them on my own. And I immediately thought, there's an amazing opportunity, because you can sit with one book and try and work through a puzzle. But I love that idea that you had to be reliant on another person to work out those puzzles. And we're getting feedback all the time, so we're definitely flagging up the puzzles that are really driving people up the wall and the ones that people really like. In addition, we've got some playtesters who work through puzzles for us, and we share them with each other as well.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with if you've got two people working on the same puzzle is you've got the quarterbacking element, where somebody who grabs where the puzzle's trying to aim for will say, oh, give it here and I'll fill it kind of in. Whereas if you've got, like you say, the vice versa kind of stuff, then you're working together, but you're working on the 2 separate sides of it. So it becomes a sense of achievement kind of comes together instead of separately. I mean, was that the kind of the aim?
Yes.
With that, was that the aim? Yeah.
The idea was, I had 2 really clear visions of it, of a couple sitting together working on it together, and then another couple who are, like, one's working in America for 2 weeks, and then they're WhatsApping their halves of the puzzle so that they can carry on, and it's just like a continuation, something they're doing together. And through feedback, we've discovered that roughly half the people who play it are literally sitting next to each other, and the other half are WhatsApping each other the pictures and the puzzles and showing it that way. So I know 4 people who've actually joined together are working as a 4 to solve it. And that's really nice. Really like that idea, that they've actually, 2 of them got the heads version, 2 of them got the tails version, and they're working as a 4, set up a little group to work through the puzzles together. Cool. So it's cooperative without having to be sitting next to each other.
And it was another way to approach the whole hints idea of how much do you give away, or how much do you... Because it's almost like writing another puzzle. If you want to give a hint that doesn't immediately give the answer away, you've got to kind of lead people perhaps a couple of steps closer to the answer. So if you've got another player, that helps. Because we toyed with ideas like, should we grade the puzzles? Should we put a difficulty thing in the corner? Or even, for the whole book, how difficult is this, or what age range is it targeted towards? But the cooperative thing seems to be a better approach.
And are you planning on doing an entire book yourself now, Matt, which just is various sports that can be played on ice with long sticks?
Do you know what? There's another puzzle that's come up. It seems to be anything with handles, Steve, isn't it? The whisk one in flatpak.
Oh, the whisk one.
It's a bit more challenging.
Goodness.
I don't know if it's that, or whether it's the left-handed skew that you give to your puzzle writing that I don't know, alienates some of the readership.
So day 6, we label each flatpak one a day, and I think it's day 6 is the whisk. And again, that's had like astronomical numbers of hits. But when people get it, they really like it. But until then, it's like having dinner with an uncle you can't stand. It's like people, and like even Matt said, I didn't get it, and I knew the answer. And he sent me a text later on with a photo with the crossings out, and Joy said, no, you've just done the words the wrong way around.
It's like one of those things where you have one of those pattern unlock things on your phone, and you've just periodically changed it because you do, and then you forget very slightly the exact order of the swirly swipe that you've got to do on your pattern, and then when you get it again, you're like, yes, this is it, I know how to do it. And then you try and do it again and you just can't. You're just like, this phone's rubbish. And then you set it on fire and throw it in the bin forever with regret. But have you thought of expanding out from the books then?
Wait, in terms of style?
Yeah.
Or beyond books to some other media?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that doesn't seem to kind of exist, and there'll be people that will probably start your screaming tabletop audience from about now, but I've not seen, I guess, a board. I know there's games out there that do a kind of a puzzle element, but they involve an app. But have you thought of expanding into like a board game that contains kind of puzzle elements on the board themselves? Because normally when I look at a game board only is really places to put the pieces. Let's face it, it gives kind of instructions. The game board itself, you could usually have a white piece of paper just saying put your meeples here, put your resources here, this is where the cards go. But to have a fully interactive game board that gives clues and puzzles and stuff like that, I think that might be an interesting thing.
There are escape board puzzles that are like escape rooms, but a lot of the criticism is that they can only be played once. So in order to do a board game with puzzles, you'd have to have puzzles that could be regenerated or a massive number of puzzles.
Like a legacy type game with stickers and stuff like that. That might be it's just a different way of, as I say, it's just a different way of kind of doing things. I know you get like, I think it's like Detective is a game that you get. There's kind of quite a few kind of games out there that they rely on an app, but you're sifting through clues to kind of solve who the murderer is, kind of thing. And I'm just wondering how the application. But I mean, you must have. Do you have lots of kind of books planned in, Matt? I mean, going forward. I mean, is this, or is this depending on how the commercial side of things, or are you already saying, well, we're just going to do it anyway because we can kind of continue to kind of self-publish as it is?
We are going forward. So I've got 2 more in the works. I'm lagging behind a little bit. Steve generates them about 1 a week, so he's got 2 more out and another 2 on the way.
Yeah.
Plus we've got the Kickstarter flatpak thing coming. So that will see out the rest of this year. Then we're looking at collaborations. So there's plenty on the roadmap to keep us out of trouble.
I think you're the type of person that would probably not get in trouble. I'm kind of worried about, Stephen staying out of trouble. Sounds like a troublemaker.
He needs a big box of pencils.
I reckon when he's in class, I reckon the kids tell him to sit down. Otherwise, he'll not get any golden time. I think he ends up in the headmaster's office more often than the kids do. That's what
I think you probably don't realise how close to the truth
that is. Very.
I reckon how that is so. You get Mr. Lockyer if you don't sit down. We're going to have to bring you
Please,
off the happy
can we learn
cloud.
Something now?
Bring you off the happy
jokes.
cloud, put you in the sad place. You're going to have to sit there and you'll not get a chance to read the book like everybody else. Oh, that's rubbish. And he flips the table and walks out, kind of thing. But flatpak, how many pages? How big is it? I mean, you mentioned it's like an IKEA catalogue type style, but how big is it?
It's 21 centimetres by 21 centimetres.
Not size, it's in pages.
Oh, the pages are all 21 by 21 as well, yeah. So basically, the cover is the same size as the pages inside, yeah. And
right.
We're working towards 140 pages.
That's a significant amount. That's actually more pages than I was expecting. I was expecting 67. Just goes to show I vastly underestimated.
I know, but that's that's a really small catalogue then. We want to have heft.
Have you seen the yellow pages recently? Have you?
It's underwhelming, isn't it?
It is. The yellow
we're
page.
not in that market. We're not the underwhelming catalogue through the door type market.
Yes, we're no Screwfix.
Oh, you just go online for them now, don't you? There are other people got rid of their catalogue. Have you got prices? Have you got dates? Do you know when the Kickstarter is roughly going to be launching?
We hope in the next couple of months. I mean, if we can get it in the next 6 weeks, that'd be great. It'll be a month long, and we're just finalising prices. But we want it to be accessible. We've done a lot of research, and some of our competitors and some of the items on Kickstarter, knowing what we know in terms of having worked in publishing and having worked and bought in bulk, we can't work out why they're charging quite so much for a printed publication. So we want to make it accessible. The idea being that the more people buy it, the more people play the games and enjoy the book. It's definitely not a commercial venture for us. We've discovered an outlet for our daft and sort of strange tangential thinking that actually other people enjoy, and that's the charm. When people say loved that puzzle, that's the reward, isn't it, Matt?
Absolutely, that's the amazing bit about it being out, and the challenge for us being a daily puzzle on social media at the moment. So that plan was to do 2 months. That gets us to 60 puzzles. There's about half the book then that we know has been play tested. We will refine it a little bit, tart up a bit more for publication, but it's principally, as you see it, going out now. And we know people are enjoying those as they feed back to us.
Mm-hmm. Has it been interesting to have to jump on the marketing kind of wagon as well? I mean, kind of get involved in the kind of the social media, building noise and stuff like that. I mean, I'm guessing that Stephen will have a little bit of experience with that because he's the books and kind of getting some publicity and spreading the word for that. But is this again been a bit of a learning exercise to say, right, we've got this product, we're looking at kickstarting it, kind of how do we get it out there?
Slow burn to some extent, but we're starting to see just how different the different channels are. Instagram, Twitter. You interact in different ways. They build in different ways.
I think there's a massive. It's really interesting sharing an account with someone because sometimes I'll look on Twitter and there'll be no notifications, and then I'll see that Matt's read them, which means it's turned off the notifications. But we both respond in a similar way because we've got a similar wavelength and a similar sense of humour. So we do feel I think it's quite good for our audience that they're going to get, whether Matt answers or I answer, they're going to get the same sort of either earnest response if they're worried or pithy response if they're taking the mickey.
Yeah,
that was interesting being out the other night when we thought we'd take advantage to set a little puzzle as to where we were together, and the responses that came in to that and how we responded. We didn't realise we were both texting at the table, responding to the same person.
Oh dear. So, end of the year, have you got a price roughly? Are you looking at £10? Are you looking at £20? Are you still deciding?
We're looking at around £15.
Right, okay. Are you looking at getting it printed locally as well, because it's going to be a printed product?
It's going to be printed in the UK. Yeah.
Cool.
We've got 3 printers that we've got final quotes for different prices, and they're all Forest Sustainable certified. So we know that we're printing a catalogue, but it's actually one that's actually going to be looked at rather than... I mean, you go into Argos sometimes when they've got their new catalogue out and they've literally got a wooden crate wheeled in and there's reams of them. And I wonder how many they're actually looked at, whereas this is going to be art colour paper, like a nice heft to it. And we know that people are actually going to spend at least 5-10 minutes on each page, which is more than you'd get in a colouring book. And we know that it's going to provide hours of pleasure. And we think that we've seen books for £34, puzzle books for £34 that are black and white. And we think by pricing it so that we get a little margin so we can use that to promote it and build up our roster, then hopefully more people will enjoy our work and spread the word. I just love the idea of these flatpak catalogues being littering the world, not in a good sense.
Being on coffee tables.
Coffee tables, yes.
Yeah. They're going to have a better feel than the IKEA catalogue, aren't they? It's going to be decent paper.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a really, really good fun idea, an unusual idea that's going to pique a lot of people's kind of interest. I have an idea that we accidentally leave a few in a certain furniture store on coffee tables. So we'll see how that goes. That might get us into trouble. It depends who's leaving them, I guess. And if they've got kind of like a gay abandon for the law, you never know. These are the times that we live in. If people who've listened along tonight, if they're like, oh, this sounds really, really interesting, where do you exist on the internet webs? Where can we find you?
We have a website. It's escapages.co.uk.
Mm-hmm.
We are on Twitter and Instagram as The Escapages. We're also on Facebook. It's the same, The Escapages. You can find us that way.
Excellent.
You can email us. We do respond.
MySpace?
You're not,
MySpace?
Stephen.
I think you're existing there on your own.
Stephen, you're by yourself. It's gone. It's gone. They don't do it.
It is quiet, to be fair. They lost
everybody's music. They lost everybody's music.
It's down that trapdoor.
People that are listening to this, if you're bringing up MySpace, you're just bringing up Hurt. When they lost all the tracks, when they did the server migration. This isn't healing anybody, this conversation at all.
I've heard that countless times.
I have no doubt you could potentially get a tattoo of it. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, you know where we live. Go to the internet webs and search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us in various places. Worn out faces, worn out places. On like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and we've got our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com, and we've got our website, which is we'renotwizards.com, and you can find us in all the podcast catchers, which have got the word pod and the word cast in them, and then all these other places which try to be clever and don't have the word pod or cast in them, but you can find us there. If you search for us, you'll find us. If you like what you listened to tonight, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have liked what you listened to tonight, except for the sad bit at the end when we were talking about MySpace, and it reminded people of all the music that they lost on MySpace when they did the server migration. Then you should consider telling people about us, because that's how we spread, like a horrible virus that can never be stopped. So there you go. Or the other thing you can do is you can go into Apple Podcasts and you can drop us a rating or a review. And if you are going to be dropping us a rating or a review, you might as well drop us a subscription as well. But remember, don't give us 10 stars, because it makes us big-headed. And don't give us 1, because it makes us cry. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. And, you know, we're just a little bit average. But the people who have not been average tonight, I give you the wonderful Matt. I give you the amazing Stephen. I give you Escapages. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for coming on. I really,
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, gentlemen?
Let me just check. No.
Thank goodness. I was dreading the worst. And the other thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye. Well, say goodbye, Matt.
Goodbye, Matt.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
Say goodbye, Stephen.
Goodbye. I'm not doing it.
Why not? Everybody does it.
Goodbye, Stephen.
There you go. That didn't hurt, did it?
A little bit. No.
It didn't, did it?
It did a little bit.
Unless you've got a sore throat. I mean, it didn't hurt, did it? No. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, make something awful, and until the next time, as I say, if you want to escape in the pages, check out the Escapages, because there's puzzles galore. You might be staring at the floor, there might be a catalogue there, but it could be puzzles. Beware. But until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.